What's happening? These are 25 real estate practice questions that you must know to pass the exam in less time. And if you want to follow along, you can grab yourself a copy of this practice exam. I'll add a link in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's go. Question number 1. Which of the following factors will not tend to increase the demand for real estate in a certain geographical area? Letter A, a decrease in property taxes. Letter B, a decrease in local employment opportunities. Letter C, improvements to the local infrastructure. Letter D, the addition of a commuter train station in town. And the answer? Letter B, a decrease in local employment opportunities. Okay, so on exams, you're going to want to know a little bit about supply and demand, and you're going to see maybe one or two questions, generally speaking, across the United States. And you need to just understand basically factors that affect demand and factors that affect supply. And in a question like this, that's what they're looking for here. They're looking for these various factors that will affect the overall outcome. So in the case of this question, which of the following factors will not tend to increase the demand for some real estate? That would be a decrease in local employment opportunities doesn't necessarily tend to increase the demand. So you see what they're saying here is a decrease in local employment opportunities means less jobs, and less jobs will not tend to increase more demand in an area. So it's slippery. It's a well-crafted question by design to intentionally show you that there's a lot of different negative comments that are coming up here. And so it's like factors will not tend to increase. A decrease in local employment opportunities. So we're dealing with supply and demand, and this is a very nicely worded question to confuse the student purposefully. Question number 2. The legal process through which ownership of property reverts to the government when the property owner passes away without a valid will and no rightful heirs or beneficiaries can be identified is called letter A, intestate. Letter B, testate. Letter C, escheat. Letter D, probate. And the answer? Letter C, escheat. So in a question like this, they're going for basic definition of what escheat is, and I would be willing to put money that you're going to see this. So escheat is definitely on there. This is something you definitely want to know for your exam. And the way it's worded, it's going to show all of the different vocab phrases inside of this. So like literally what you're doing is you're looking at all of these going, hey, I know all of these words. Number 1, if I were to guess, I would say letter A is probably the most incorrect answer choice out of the entire thing with the highest probability. And that's simply because they're actually referencing when somebody passes away without a valid will, but then it says, and no rightful heirs. And so if somebody dies without a will, they die intestate. But if they also have no rightful heirs, then that is the framework for escheat. And when it reverts to the government is the other telltale sign here. Good question. Question number 3. What is the purpose of disclosing agency representation agreements in real estate transactions? Letter A, to avoid paying commission fees. Letter B, to confuse buyers and sellers. Letter C, to maintain transparency and prevent conflicts of interest. Letter D, to expedite the transaction process. And the answer? Letter C, to maintain transparency and prevent conflicts of interest. So in our business, you definitely want to know a bit about agency representation. So you're going to see questions about agency representation. They're definitely going to come up. And you want to know the fundamental reason, the prime directive, if you will, of why we have agency representation agreements. And really, at the end of the day, is to maintain transparency and really identify whom you are working for and who you are working with, customers and clients. The client is the principal, and what duties do we owe this client in the form of fiduciary obligations, and what do we owe the customer? All stuff you're going to learn in the world of agency. Question number 4. The main difference between joint tenancy and tenancy in common is that with tenancy in common, when one of the co-owners dies, their share, letter A, passes to the other co-owners. Letter B, passes in full to their heirs. Letter C is divided between their heirs and the surviving co-owners equally. Letter D, passes to the other co-owners automatically, becoming a tenancy by the entirety. And the answer, letter B, passes in full to their heirs. Okay, so this question is classic. You need to know the difference between a joint tenancy and a tenancy in common. It's going to be there. Trust me. Now, the big fundamental difference is going to be the right of survivorship. We've talked about this one multiple times across multiple videos. So I'm telling you it's on there. Right of survivorship and the way it fundamentally works. And the way they frame this particular question is that a tenancy in common is that the tenancy in common, this is a very interestingly crafted question, right? Because it's repeating tenancy in common twice. When one of the co-owners dies, then their share, so they're looking to answer this based on what if is a tenancy in common, and with a tenancy in common, when the co-owner dies, their interest passes in full to their heirs. That's another way of saying that this thing has no right of survivorship. So you want to know what right of survivorship is, and at least these two forms of co-ownership. Hey y'all, if you're serious about passing the exam, check out my masterclass in the description below. I can confidently say it is the best resource on the market for exam prep, period. It's built on 25 years of real-world teaching experience across every major real estate publication, giving it unmatched insight into what publishers emphasize and what actually appears on exams. I'll show you exactly what to focus on through video lessons, quizzes, required vocab, and premium practice questions. You can get your exam prep done in as little as a few days and pass that exam and move on. Now back to our video. Question number 5. What are littoral rights associated with? Letter A, property abutting moving water. Letter B, property abutting non-moving bodies of water. Letter C, properties with mineral rights. Letter D, property with any water rights. And the answer, letter B, properties abutting non-moving bodies of water. So, this is interesting. Littoral rights, think of the L in littoral. L for large lakes or oceans. The O in littoral for oceans. And littoral rights are for larger sort of standing bodies of water, such as oceans and Great Lakes. Now, again, it's a little bit of a misunderstanding, right? All water is moving, right, to some degree. But these are for larger standing bodies of water, such as like Great Lakes and oceans. So littoral rights. So properties abutting non-moving bodies of water. So by moving bodies of water, they're talking riparian rights, which think of R for rivers and streams. Question number 6. Which of the following is included in the bundle of rights? Letter A, ownership. Letter B, enjoyment. Letter C, control. Letter D, both B and C. And the answer? Letter D, both B and C. All right, so the bundle of rights is something that you want to memorize. There's typically 5 bundles, right? The right of possession, the right of control, the right of enjoyment, the right of exclusion, and the right of disposition. And so we want to know those. You just want to memorize them. And so these are types of questions that make you need to memorize and you apply. So ownership is not one of them, right? Ownership is actually legal title. Bundle of rights is really equitable title. And enjoyment and control are 2 of the bundles that you typically see on the exam and in coursework all over the United States. Question number 7. In which of the following situations would a real estate licensee be considered a non-agent? Letter A, dual agency. Letter B, facilitator. Letter C, fiduciary. Letter D, sub-agent. And the answer? Letter B, facilitator. So non-agents are also referred to as facilitator, and in some areas, transactional brokers. So depending where you are, you're going to see them listed in different ways. You want to know that a facilitator is also considered to be a non-agent. Facilitators treat both sides like their customers. There's no client relationship, but disclosure and accounting are still owed to both sides. Question number 8. Which of the following is a true statement regarding documents for the transfer of property? Letter A, a deed is used for the transfer of personal property and a bill of sale for real property. Letter B, a bill of sale is used for the transfer of personal property and a deed is for real property. Letter C, a bill of sale can be used for either the transfer of real or personal property, but a deed can only be used for the transfer of personal property. Letter D, none of the above are true. And the answer? Letter B, a bill of sale is used for the transfer of personal property and a deed is for the real property. So this is a classic question. The question is really presenting what is the difference between real property and personal property, or realty and personalty, or realty and chattel. Remember, personal property is also chattel. And you want to know that a bill of sale is, in essence, a receipt for a piece of personal property. So I would get a bill of sale for this microphone, and I would get a deed for this building. And so that's the difference. So a deed is to real property as a bill of sale or receipt is to personal property. You want to know this one. Question number 9. What is the primary focus of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, in the context of housing? Letter A, to provide equal employment opportunities for everyone. Letter B, to ensure equal housing opportunities to persons with disabilities. Letter C, to regulate accommodations that must be made for emotional support animals. Letter D, to establish guidelines for real estate licensees. And the answer? Letter B, to ensure equal housing opportunities to persons with disabilities. You want to know ADA. There's a couple of components of the ADA that you want to know. Service animals is one of them. And you also want to know sort of how ADA applies in sort of the housing context. And in this particular question, it's a nice clean example of what it's sort of looking to maintain, and that's equal opportunity in housing to persons with disabilities. You obviously also want to know the interplay between this and the Fair Housing Act and the protected class of disability, which is one of the 7 federal protected classes. And you want to know the exemptions to these items such as disabilities. And you'll see these in books and materials across the US. So definitely study that. But knowing a little bit about ADA is just one simple step to getting through this exam. And it's an easy one if you can memorize this stuff. Question number 10. What is the highest form of property ownership that grants the owner complete and unrestricted ownership rights? Letter A, fee simple defeasible. Letter B, fee simple condition subsequent. Letter C, fee simple absolute. Letter D, leasehold estate. And the answer, letter C, fee simple absolute. So fee simple absolute is the highest form of property ownership that grants the owner complete and unrestricted ownership rights. The first two are legitimate ones. Well, so is letter D. But in terms of fee simple, sometimes you're going to see fee simple condition subsequent, and sometimes you're going to see something else called a fee simple determinable, as they are compared to the fee simple absolute, which is also known as a fee simple indefeasible. Fee simple absolute is the highest form of ownership in an unrestricted ownership right. Question number 11. Which type of deed offers the highest level of protection to the grantee and includes warranties or guarantees from the grantor of clear title and the absence of encumbrances? Letter A, quitclaim deed. Letter B, special warranty deed. Letter C, bargain and sale deed. Letter D, general warranty deed. And the answer? Letter D, general warranty deed. So the general warranty deed is and will be the deed that offers the highest level of protection to the grantee. So anytime you see a question with that, the highest level of protection, any of those types of things, like it could be worded like, which deed would favor the buyer in a lawsuit on title over the seller? And that is the general warranty deed. So basically, the grantee, who is the buyer, you want to know grantee, grantor, but grantor is the seller, that the bargain and sale deed, quitclaim deed, and special warranty deed don't offer the level of protection that the general warranty deed offers. It offers warranties, guarantees, and that the grantor promises to clear title in the absence and promote that there are absolutely no encumbrances or liens or anything that could affect or alter title. So you want to know that the general warranty deed offers the most protection to the grantee. Question number 12. If a property manager is hired by a landlord to oversee routine maintenance and daily operations of one of his multifamily rental properties, which of the following is true? Letter A. The landlord must also hire the property manager for any other rental properties he owns. Letter B. The property manager cannot be paid a salary and must instead be paid based on commissions earned through securing lease agreements with tenants. Letter C, the property manager must hire a real estate licensee to oversee the landlord's trust accounts. Letter D, the property manager most likely does not need a real estate license. And the answer? Letter D, the property manager most likely does not need a real estate license. So, if a property manager is hired by a landlord to oversee routine maintenance and daily operations of one of this landlord's multifamily properties, well, which of the following is true? Basically, a property manager is going to be treated like a general agent, and therefore they don't need to be licensed in brokerage. However, they're receiving commissions or anything like that, then they will need to be licensed. So let's take a look at letter A. The landlord must also hire the property manager for any other rental properties he owns. Well, that's not true. Absolutely no. It could just be a one-off property. No big deal. The property manager cannot be paid a salary and must instead be paid based on commissions. That would require them to have a real estate license. The property manager must hire a real estate licensee to oversee the landlord's trust accounts. Well, that's not true either. A property manager can oversee a landlord's trust accounts. Not a big deal. If they are earning commissions or doing anything that is defined in the world of brokerage, then they would need to have a license. And in this particular question, the way it's framed, letter D is the correct answer. Question number 13. Melissa owns a piece of land with a small shed on it. She recently decided to sell the shed separately from the land. What is this called? Letter A, affixing. Letter B, conversion. Letter C, conveyance. Letter D, severance. And the answer? Letter D, severance. So severance and annexation are opposites. And in this particular question, what happens is this person, Melissa, owns some land with a small shed on it. She recently decided to sell the shed separately from the land. She separated the shed from the land. Severing that is through severance. Pretty easy, but lots of students may get it confused with affixing or conversion or something of that nature. Conversion is probably the number one wrong answer in this particular scenario. But you need to know severance and the opposite, which is annexation. Question number 14. Which type of property ownership is only available to married couples and has the right of survivorship? Letter A, tenancy in common. Letter B, fee simple estate. Letter C, tenancy by the entirety. Letter D, joint tenancy. And the answer? Letter C, tenancy by the entirety. So first off, anytime that you're going to see right of survivorship, you want to understand in this kind of an exam scenario with these 101 style tests, it's going to be one of those co-ownerships. So tenancy by the entirety, joint tenancy, or tenancy by in common, excuse me. And so you want to know those. So that's a good way to sort of, partition off and say, hey, look, at least letter B isn't in the running. And it's either going to be letter A, C, or D. And now you want to know only available to married couples. Married couples are allowed to choose tenancy by the entirety. They're the only co-owners that can pick this form if the state observes it. Some states observe community property, some observe tenancy by the entirety. And so, if you don't have that in your state, it's okay. They're still going to throw it on a question, and you just need to know that we don't observe that. It's going to be community property. So you just want to know those kinds of things. But tenancy by the entirety offers the married couples the right of survivorship, and that means when one of the spouses passes, the other spouse becomes the actual full owner. Question number 15. Which of the following distinguishes negligent misrepresentation from intentional misrepresentation? Letter A, the level of harm caused to the misrepresented parties. Letter B, the agent's choice to conceal material defects. Letter C, the amount of false information provided. Letter D, the absence of intent to deceive or conceal material facts. And the answer? Letter D, the absence of intent to deceive or conceal material facts. So negligent misrepresentation is the absence of intent to deceive or to conceal. Intentional misrepresentation is purposeful. So it's intention to deceive or conceal material facts purposefully. Question number 16. Which of the following is not one of the three types of depreciation used in the cost approach? Letter A, economic obsolescence. Letter B, functional obsolescence. Letter C, proprietary deterioration. Letter D, physical deterioration. And the answer? Letter C, proprietary deterioration. So what they do on test questions like this is they're going to do these are the three things you need to know. They're going to throw one that's kind of like that, they'll use the word deterioration at the end, but there is no such thing as proprietary deterioration. I mean, I guess you could make something up, but it's not one of the three depreciations in the cost approach. The other thing here I would like you to do is study these. You want to know economic, functional, and physical, and you also want to know that economic obsolescence, sometimes some books and authors will call it external obsolescence. That one is always incurable, and then the other two are curable and incurable. You want to know why. That's definitely something I would study. Question number 17. In a title theory mortgage, who retains legal ownership of the property until the debt is repaid? Letter A, the borrower. Letter B, the trustee. Letter C, the beneficiary. Letter D, the lender. And the answer? Letter D, the lender. So title theory versus lien theory. These are two items that you find in the beginning of finance wherever you're studying this stuff. So look them up. You want to understand how they're slightly different. So in the lien theory, the idea is that the lender has a lien on the property and the legal title is still held by the borrower. Okay? So the deed is in their name and ownership is in their name. In title theory states, the logic is that the lender is going to hold on to title until the debt is repaid, and then it's relinquished back to the consumer or the borrower once the debt has been satisfied, and then the borrower has the equitable right of redemption. So you want to look that up in your books and understand that fact, but the reality here is you want to know title theory versus lien theory, the borrower, the trustee, the beneficiary, and the lender. Question number 18. A licensed appraiser who is working on behalf of a lender determines the value of a property by conducting an letter A, assessment, letter B, CMA, letter C, appraisal, letter D, comparative market analysis. And the answer? Letter C, appraisal. So this is pretty straightforward. What they did here, however, is these are all things that are legit. So assessments are performed by tax assessors' offices to determine value. CMAs are competitive or comparative market analysis, depends where you're learning this. And the appraisal obviously is an appraisal. It kind of gave you the telltale here as like a licensed appraiser and a comparative market analysis. So comparative market analysis and CMA are one and the same. Sometimes they call them comparative and sometimes they call them competitive. At the end of the day, this is performed by real estate professionals to try to determine what is value. So if it said a real estate professional who's working on behalf of a lender or a client or something like that is trying to determine the value of a property, then it could be CMA, it could be comparative market analysis. But the appraiser is performing an appraisal service for a lender. Question number 19. A mortgage that allows the borrower to access additional funds from their equity without refinancing is called a letter A, package mortgage, letter B, cash out refinance, letter C, shared equity mortgage, letter D, open-ended mortgage. And the answer? Letter D, open-end mortgage. So you want to know the differences of a couple of these, package mortgages, shared equity mortgages. You might see these. You're going to see these on the sections in your books. They'll definitely cover them, especially older school ones. You know, blanket mortgage, cross lien or cross collateralization. You might see it. You might see balloon. You might see these types of things. Open-ended versus closed-ended. So a traditional mortgage is closed-ended. When a mortgage is open-ended, it allows you to continue to access the funds in that. So like a home equity line of credit would be a type of open-ended credit extension. And so therefore D is the correct answer. Question number 20. What is a habendum clause in a real estate contract? Letter A, a required clause in a deed which names the words of conveyance of the property. Letter B, a section of a contract that deals with property rights and other aspects of ownership. Letter C, a legal document that transfers property ownership from a grantor to a grantee. Letter D, the right to extend a closing date if delays are outside of the buyer's control. And the answer? Letter B, a section of a contract that deals with property rights and other aspects of ownership. So the habendum clause means to have and to hold. And so any words coming immediately after that, whether it be in a deed or in a contract, is going to refer to the type of interest you are going to be receiving or that we are discussing that is available for sale. So in this case, it's a real estate contract. It also is in a deed, a habendum clause. And you want to know what those are. Those are definitely fancy vocab phrases that you see on exams. Question number 21. The Americans with Disabilities Act guarantees equal opportunities in all of the following instances except letter A, public transportation, letter B, employment, letter C, public schools, letter D, private country clubs. And the answer? Letter D, private country clubs. So the Americans with Disabilities Act, if you notice, all of the other answers are in sort of public spaces, public transportation, employment areas, and public schools. And the ADA does address employment situations. And however, private community clubs is not covered under the ADA, but different jurisdictions and local authorities are going to have to make requirements for accessibility if required. Question number 22. What is an automated valuation method, AVM, primarily used for in real estate? Letter A, calculating a property's replacement cost using the average price per square foot. Letter B, estimating property values quickly. Letter C, legal proceedings related to the property dispute. Letter D, assessing physical deterioration in a building. And the answer? Letter B, estimating property values quickly. So the point of an automated valuation method is used for quick valuation of an asset. And you'll see these typically used with banks when they're trying to look at maybe potentially refinancing if a customer's been with them for a long time and they have reason to believe that there's a lot of equity. If the markets haven't grown aggressively, many times they're going to back this up with a human being appraiser that's going to be valuing the asset. But the AVM is a tool that we use for quick, rapid valuations and assessments of what things are worth. So estimating property values quickly. Question number 23. The main characteristic of an adjustable rate mortgage is that the interest rate, letter A, will increase over time. Letter B will decrease over time. Letter C will increase and then decrease over time. Letter D can increase and or decrease over time. And the answer? Letter D can increase and or decrease over time. So many folks will think that an adjustable rate mortgage only potentially can go up. It can go the other way. During periods in my lifetime as an investor, we've had adjustable rate mortgages that have gone below where traditional interest rates are at like 1%. And so it's been crazy if you look at it from the positive attributes and not only from the negative. Obviously, they're way more volatile because they're dealing with the market. And so as things move up and down, then the characteristic of an adjustable rate mortgage is that it can increase or even decrease over time. Question number 24. Which of the following are all elements of a valid contract? Letter A, purchase price, property description, financing terms, and inspection period. Letter B, negotiation, due diligence, closing costs, title insurance. Letter C, offer, acceptance, consideration, legality. Letter D, property location, real estate agent, home inspection, financing approval. And the answer? Letter C, offer, acceptance, consideration, legality. So the essential elements of a valid contract will absolutely be on your exam. Anywhere you are, all over the United States, you want to remember the elements of a valid contract. So commit to memory things like offer and acceptance, consideration, what is it, legality, legally competent parties, legal purpose, all of these different things, meeting of the minds. All of them are going to be referenced on exams. Question number 25. Property owners whose land abuts a flowing river or stream have the right to make reasonable use of the waterway according to letter A, riparian rights. Letter B, the bundle of rights. Letter C, the Clean Water Act. Letter D, littoral rights. And the answer? Letter A, riparian rights. So remember, flowing rivers or streams was the telltale. Making reasonable use of the waterway is a telltale. Are rivers and streams riparian rights deal with flowing bodies of water and the rights associated with abutting moving water like rivers and streams. So riparian rights. And in the counter to that, we saw earlier is littoral rights. Think of large lakes or oceans. And so you want to see these riparian rights, water rights, these are all going to show up on examinations. So you definitely want to know them. You want to know riparian rights. You want to know littoral rights. You want to know doctrine of prior appropriation. And you want to kind of know where the ownership extends to depending on the navigability or the non-navigability of the waterway. Nice work, everyone. All right, so that was 25 questions that were need to know to get through the exam faster. And if you want to know how to pass the exam in less time than that, well, check out this next video.